Hosea chapter 12. Ephraim feeds on wind and chases the east wind. It continually multiplies lies and desolation. They make a covenant with Assyria, and oil is carried into Egypt. Yahweh also has a controversy with Judah, and will punish Jacob according to his ways. According to his deeds he will repay him. In the womb he took his brother by the heel, and in his manhood he contended with God. Indeed, he struggled with the angel and prevailed. He wept and made supplication to him. He found him at Bethel, and there he spoke with us. Even Yahweh, the God of armies. Yahweh is his name of renown. Therefore turn to your God. Keep kindness and justice, and wait continually for your God. A merchant has dishonest scales in his hand. He loves to defraud. Ephraim said, surely I have become rich. I have found myself wealth. In all my wealth they won't find in me any iniquity that is sin. That I am Yahweh your God from the land of Egypt. I will yet again make you dwell in tents, as in the days of the solemn feast. I have also spoken to the prophets, and I have multiplied visions, and by the ministry of the prophets I have used parables. If Gilead is wicked, surely they are worthless. In Gilgal they sacrifice bulls. Indeed, their altars are like heaps in the furrows of the field. Jacob fled into the country of Aram. Israel served to get a wife. For a wife he tended flocks and herds. By a prophet Yahweh brought Israel up out of Egypt, and by a prophet he was preserved. Ephraim has bitterly provoked anger. Therefore his blood will be left on him, and his Lord will repay his contempt. Chapter 13. When Ephraim spoke, there was trembling. He exalted himself in Israel, but when he became guilty through Baal, he died. Now they sin more and more, and have made themselves molten images of their silver, even idols according to their own understanding, all of them the work of the craftsmen. They say of them, they offer human sacrifice and kiss the calves. Therefore they will be like the morning mist, like the dew that passes away early, like the chaff that is driven with the whirlwind out of the threshing floor, and like the smoke out of the chimney. Yet I am Yahweh your God from the land of Egypt, and you shall acknowledge no God but me. And besides me there is no Savior. I knew you in the wilderness, in the land of great drought. According to their pasture, so were they filled, and their heart was exalted. Therefore they have forgotten me. Therefore I am like a lion to them. Like a leopard, I will lurk by the path. I will meet them like a bear that is bereaved of her cubs, and will tear the covering of their heart. There I will devour them like a lioness. The wild animal will tear them. You are destroyed, Israel, because you are against me, against your helper. Where is your king now, that he may save you in all your cities? And your judges, of whom you said, give me a king and princes. I have given you a king in my anger, and have taken him away in my wrath. The guilt of Ephraim is stored up. His sin is stored up. The sorrows of the travailing woman will come on him. He is an unwise son, for when it is time, he doesn't come to the opening of the womb. I will ransom them from the power of Sheol. I will redeem them from death. Death, where are your plagues? Sheol, where is your destruction? Compassion will be hidden from my eyes. Though he is fruitful among his brothers, an east wind will come, the breath of Yahweh coming up from the wilderness. And his spring will become dry, and his fountain will be dried up. He will plunder the storehouse of treasure. Samaria will bear her guilt, for she has rebelled against her God. He will fall by the sword. Their infants will be dashed in pieces, and their pregnant women will be ripped open. Chapter 14. Israel, return to Yahweh your God, for you have fallen because of your sin. Take words with you and return to Yahweh. Tell him, forgive all our sins and accept that which is good. So we offer bulls as we vowed of our lips. Assyria can't save us. We won't ride on horses, neither will we say any more to the work of our hands, our gods. For in you the fatherless finds mercy. I will heal their waywardness. I will love them freely, for my anger is turned away from them. I will be like the dew to Israel. He will blossom like the lily, and send down his roots like Lebanon. His branches will spread, and his beauty will be like the olive tree, and his fragrance like Lebanon. Men will dwell in his shade. They will revive like the grain, and blossom like the vine. Their fragrance will be like the wine of Lebanon. Ephraim, what have I to do any more with idols? I answer, and will take care of him. I am like a green cypress tree, from me your fruit is found. Who is wise, that he may understand these things? Who is prudent, that he may know them? For the ways of Yahweh are right, and the righteous walk in them, but the rebellious stumble in them. The book of Joel, chapter 1. Yahweh's word that came to Joel, the son of Pethuel. Hear this, you elders, and listen, all you inhabitants of the land. Has this ever happened in your days, or in the days of your fathers? Tell your children about it, and have your children tell their children, and their children another generation. What the swarming locust has left, the great locust has eaten. What the great locust has left, the grasshopper has eaten. What the grasshopper has left, the caterpillar has eaten. Wake up, you drunkards, and weep. Wail, all you drinkers of wine, because of the sweet wine, for it is cut off from your mouth. For a nation has come up on my land, strong and without number. His teeth are the teeth of a lion, and he has the fangs of a lioness. He has laid my vine waste, and stripped my fig tree. He has stripped its bark, and thrown it away. Its branches are made white, worn like a virgin dressed in sackcloth for the husband of her youth. The meal offering and the drink offering are cut off from Yahweh's house. The priests, Yahweh's ministers, mourn. The field is laid waste. The land mourns, for the grain is destroyed, the new wine has dried up, and the oil languishes. Be confounded, you farmers. Wail, you vineyard keepers, for the wheat and for the barley, for the harvest of the field has perished. The vine has dried up, and the fig tree withered, the pomegranate tree, the palm tree also, and the apple tree, even all of the trees of the field are withered, for joy has withered away from the sons of men. Put on sackcloth and mourn, you priests. Wail, you ministers of the altar. Come, lie all night in sackcloth, you ministers of my God, for the meal offering and the drink offering are withheld from your God's house. Sanctify a fast, call a solemn assembly. Gather the elders and all the inhabitants of the land to the house of Yahweh, your God, and cry to Yahweh. Alas for the day of Yahweh is at hand, and it will come as destruction from the Almighty. Isn't the food cut off before our eyes, joy and gladness from the house of our God? The seeds rot under their clods. The granaries are laid desolate. The barns are broken down, for the grain has withered. How the animals groan. The herds of livestock are perplexed, because they have no pasture. Yes, the flocks of sheep are made desolate. Yahweh, I cry to you, for the fire has devoured the pastures of the wilderness, and the flame has burned all the trees of the field. Yes, the animals of the field pant to you, for the water brooks have dried up, and the fire has devoured the pastures of the wilderness. Chapter 2. Blow the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of Yahweh comes, for it is close at hand, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness. As the dawn spreading on the mountains, a great and strong people, there has never been the like, neither will there be any more after them, even to the years of many generations. A fire devours before them, and behind them a flame burns. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Yes, and no one has escaped them. Their appearance is as the appearance of horses, and they run as horsemen. Like the noise of chariots on the tops of the mountains, they leap like the noise of a flame of fire that devours the stubble, like a strong people set in battle array. At their presence the peoples are in anguish. All faces have grown pale. They run like mighty men. They climb the wall like warriors. They each march in his line, and they don't swerve off course. One doesn't jostle another. They each march on their own path. They burst through the defenses and don't break ranks. They rush on the city. They run on the wall. They climb up into the houses. They enter in at the windows like thieves. The earth quakes before them. The heavens tremble. The sun and the moon are darkened, and the stars withdraw their shining. Yahweh thunders his voice before his army, for his forces are very great, for he is strong who obeys his command. For the day of Yahweh is great and very awesome, and who can endure it? Yet even now, says Yahweh, turn to me with all your heart, and with fasting, and with weeping, and with mourning. Fear your heart and not your garments, and turn to Yahweh your God, for he is gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and abundant in loving kindness, and relents from sending calamity. Who knows? He may turn and relent, and leave a blessing behind him, even a meal offering and a drink offering to Yahweh your God. Blow the trumpet in Zion, sanctify a fast, call a solemn assembly. Gather the people, sanctify the assembly, assemble the elders, gather the children and those who nurse from breasts. Let the bridegroom go out of his room, and the bride out of her chamber. Let the priests, the ministers of Yahweh, weep between the porch and the altar, and let them say, Spare your people, Yahweh, and don't give your heritage to reproach, that the nations should rule over them. Why should they say among the peoples, Where is their God? Then Yahweh was jealous for his land, and had pity on his people. Yahweh answered his people, Behold, I will send you grain, new wine, and oil, and you will be satisfied with them. And I will no more make you a reproach among the nations, that I will remove the northern army far away from you, and will drive it into a barren and desolate land, its front into the eastern sea, and its back into the western sea, and its stench will come up, and its bad smell will rise. Surely he has done great things. Land, don't be afraid. Be glad and rejoice, for Yahweh has done great things. Don't be afraid, you animals of the field, for the pastures of the wilderness spring up, for the tree bears its fruit. The fig tree and the vine yield their strength. Be glad then, you children of Zion, and rejoice in Yahweh, your God, for he gives you the early rain in just measure, and he causes the rain to come down for you, the early rain and the latter rain, as before. The threshing floors will be full of wheat, and the vats will overflow with new wine and oil. I will restore to you the years that the swarming locust has eaten, the great locust, the grasshopper, and the caterpillar, my great army, which I sent among you. You will have plenty to eat and be satisfied, and will praise the name of Yahweh, your God, who has dealt wondrously with you, and my people will never again be disappointed. You will know that I am among Israel, and that I am Yahweh, your God, and there is no one else, and my people will never again be disappointed. It will happen afterward that I will pour out my spirit on all flesh, and your sons and your daughters will prophesy. Your old men will dream dreams, your young men will see visions. And also on the servants and on the handmaids in those days I will pour out my spirit, I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood, fire, and pillars of smoke. The sun will be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before the great and terrible day of Yahweh comes. It will happen that whoever will call on Yahweh's name shall be saved. For in Mount Sinai and in Jerusalem there will be those who escape, as Yahweh has said, and among the remnant those whom Yahweh calls. Chapter 3. For, behold, in those days and in that time, when I restore the fortunes of Judah and Jerusalem, I will gather all nations, and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and I will execute judgment on them there for my people, and for my heritage, Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations. They have divided my land, and have cast lots for my people, and have given a boy for a prostitute, and sold a girl for wine, that they may drink. Yes, and what are you to me, Tyre and Sidon, and all the regions of Philistia? Will you repay me? And if you repay me, I will swiftly and speedily return your repayment on your own head, because you have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried my finest treasures into your temples, and have sold the children of Judah and the children of Jerusalem to the sons of the Greeks, that you may remove them far from their border. Behold, I will stir them up out of the place where you have sold them, and will return your repayment on your own head. And I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hands of the children of Judah, and they will sell them to the men of Sheba, to a faraway nation, for Yahweh has spoken it. Proclaim this among the nations, prepare for war, stir up the mighty men. Let all the warriors draw near, let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Hurry and come, all you surrounding nations, and gather yourselves together. Cause your mighty ones to come down there, Yahweh. Let the nations arouse themselves, and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there I will sit to judge all the surrounding nations. Put in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, tread, for the winepress is full, the vats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision. For the day of Yahweh is near in the valley of decision. The sun and the moon are darkened, and the stars withdraw their shining. Yahweh will roar from Zion, and thunder from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth will shake. But Yahweh will be a refuge to his people, and a stronghold to the children of Israel. So you will know that I am Yahweh, your God, dwelling in Zion, my holy mountain. Then Jerusalem will be holy, and no strangers will pass through her any more. It will happen in that day that the mountains will drop down sweet wine, the hills will flow with milk, all the brooks of Judah will flow with waters, and a fountain will flow out from Yahweh's house, and will water the valley of Shittim. Egypt will be a desolation, and Edom will be a desolate wilderness, for the violence done to the children of Judah, because they have shed innocent blood in their land. That Judah will be inhabited forever, and Jerusalem from generation to generation. I will cleanse their blood that I have not cleansed, for Yahweh dwells in Zion. The Book of Amos, Chapter 1. The words of Amos, who was among the herdsmen of Tekoa, which he saw concerning Israel in the days of Uzziah king of Judah, and in the days of Jeroboam the son of Joash, king of Israel, 2 years before the earthquake. He said, Yahweh will roar from Zion, and utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the pastures of the shepherds will mourn, and the top of Carmel will wither. Yahweh says, for 3 transgressions of Damascus, yes, for 4, I will not turn away its punishment, because they have threshed Gilead with threshing instruments of iron. But I will send a fire into the house of Hazael, and it will devour the palaces of Ben-Hadad. I will break the bar of Damascus, and cut off the inhabitant from the valley of Aven, and him who holds the scepter from the house of Edom. And the people of Syria shall go into captivity to Kir, says Yahweh. Yahweh says, for 3 transgressions of Gaza, yes, for 4, I will not turn away its punishment, because they carried away captive the whole community, to deliver them up to Edom. Then I will send a fire on the wall of Gaza, and it will devour its palaces. I will cut off the inhabitant from Ashdod, and him who holds the scepter from Ashkelon, and I will turn my hand against Ekron, and the remnant of the Philistines will perish, says the Lord Yahweh. Yahweh says, for 3 transgressions of Tyre, yes, for 4, I will not turn away its punishment, because they delivered up the whole community to Edom, and didn't remember the brotherly covenant. But I will send a fire on the wall of Tyre, and it will devour its palaces. Yahweh says, for 3 transgressions of Edom, yes, for 4, I will not turn away its punishment, because he pursued his brother with the sword and cast off all pity. And his anger raged continually, and he kept his wrath forever. But I will send a fire on Teman, and it will devour the palaces of Basra. Yahweh says, for 3 transgressions of the children of Ammon, yes, for 4, I will not turn away its punishment, because they have ripped open the pregnant women of Gilead, that they may enlarge their border. But I will kindle a fire in the wall of Rabbah, and it will devour its palaces, with shouting in the day of battle, with a storm in the day of the whirlwind. And their king will go into captivity, he and his princes together, says Yahweh. Chapter 2. Yahweh says, for 3 transgressions of Moab, yes, for 4, I will not turn away its punishment, because he burned the bones of the king of Edom into lime. that I will send a fire on Moab, and it will devour the palaces of Kiriath, and Moab will die with tumult, with shouting, and with the sound of the trumpet. And I will cut off the judge from among them, and will kill all its princes with him, says Yahweh. Yahweh says, for 3 transgressions of Judah, yes, for 4, I will not turn away its punishment, because they have rejected Yahweh's law, and have not kept his statutes, and their lies have led them astray, after which their fathers walked, that I will send a fire on Judah, and it will devour the palaces of Jerusalem. Yahweh says, for 3 transgressions of Israel, yes, for 4, I will not turn away its punishment, because they have sold the righteous for silver, and the needy for a pair of sandals. They trample the heads of the poor into the dust of the earth, and deny justice to the oppressed. A man and his father used the same maiden to profane my holy name. They lay themselves down beside every altar on clothes taken in pledge. In the house of their God they drink the wine of those who have been fined. Yet I destroyed the Amorite before them, whose height was like the height of the cedars, and he was strong as the oaks. Yet I destroyed his fruit from above, and his roots from beneath. Also I brought you up out of the land of Egypt, and led you 40 years in the wilderness, to possess the land of the Amorite. I raised up some of your sons for prophets, and some of your young men for Nazirites. Isn't this true, you children of Israel? Says Yahweh. That you gave the Nazirites wine to drink, and commanded the prophets, saying, don't prophesy. Behold, I will crush you in your place, as a cart crushes that is full of grain. Fly will perish from the swift. The strong won't strengthen his force. The mighty won't deliver himself. He who handles the bow won't stand. He who is swift of foot won't escape. He who rides the horse won't deliver himself. He who is courageous among the mighty will flee away naked on that day, says Yahweh. Chapter 3. Hear this word that Yahweh has spoken against you, children of Israel, against the whole family which I brought up out of the land of Egypt, saying, I have only chosen you of all the families of the earth. Therefore I will punish you for all of your sins. Do 2 walk together, unless they have agreed? Will a lion roar in the thicket when he has no prey? Does a young lion cry out of his den if he has caught nothing? Can a bird fall in a trap on the earth where no snare is set for him? Does a snare spring up from the ground when there is nothing to catch? Does the trumpet alarm sound in a city without the people being afraid? Does evil happen to a city and Yahweh hasn't done it? Surely the Lord Yahweh will do nothing unless he reveals his secret to his servants the prophets. The lion has roared. Who will not fear? The Lord Yahweh has spoken. Who can but prophesy? Proclaim in the palaces at Ashdod and in the palaces in the land of Egypt, and say, assemble yourselves on the mountains of Samaria, and see what unrest is in her, and what oppression is among them. Indeed, they don't know to do right, says Yahweh, who hoard plunder and loot in their palaces. Therefore the Lord Yahweh says, an adversary will overrun the land, and he will pull down your strongholds, and your fortresses will be plundered. Yahweh says, as the shepherd rescues out of the mouth of the lion 2 legs, or a piece of an ear, so shall the children of Israel be rescued who sit in Samaria on the corner of a couch, and on the silken cushions of a bed. Listen and testify against the house of Jacob, says the Lord Yahweh, the God of armies. For in the day that I visit the transgressions of Israel on him, I will also visit the altars of Bethel, and the horns of the altar will be cut off and fall to the ground. I will strike the winter house with the summer house, and the houses of ivory will perish, and the great houses will have an end, says Yahweh. Amos, chapter 4. Listen to this word, you cows of Bashan, who are on the mountain of Samaria, who oppress the poor, who crush the needy, who tell their husbands, bring us drinks. The Lord Yahweh has sworn by his holiness, behold, the days shall come on you that they will take you away with hooks, and the last of you with fish hooks. You will go out at the breaks in the wall, everyone straight before her, and you will cast yourselves into Harmon, says Yahweh. Go to Bethel and sin, to Gilgal and sin more. Bring your sacrifices every morning, your tithes every 3 days. Offer a sacrifice of thanksgiving of that which is leavened, and proclaim freewill offerings and brag about them. For this pleases you, you children of Israel, says the Lord Yahweh. I also have given you cleanness of teeth in all your cities, and lack of bread in every town, yet you haven't returned to me, says Yahweh. I also have withheld the rain from you when there were yet 3 months to the harvest, and I caused it to rain on one city, and caused it not to rain on another city. One field was rained on, and the field where it didn't rain withered. So 2 or 3 cities staggered to one city to drink water, and were not satisfied, yet you haven't returned to me, says Yahweh. I struck you with blight and mildew many times in your gardens and your vineyards, and the swarming locusts have devoured your fig trees and your olive trees, yet you haven't returned to me, says Yahweh. I sent plagues among you like I did Egypt. I have slain your young men with the sword, and have carried away your horses. I filled your nostrils with the stench of your camp, yet you haven't returned to me, says Yahweh. I have overthrown some of you, as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah, and you were like a burning stick plucked out of the fire, yet you haven't returned to me, says Yahweh. Therefore I will do this to you, Israel, because I will do this to you. Prepare to meet your God. Israel. For, behold, he who forms the mountains, creates the wind, declares to man what is his thought, who makes the morning darkness, and treads on the high places of the earth. Yahweh, the God of armies, is his name. Amos, chapter 5. Listen to this word which I take up for a lamentation over you, O house of Israel. The virgin of Israel has fallen, she shall rise no more. She is cast down on her land, there is no one to raise her up. For the Lord Yahweh says, the city that went out 1,000 shall have 100 left, and that which went out 100 shall have 10 left to the house of Israel. For Yahweh says to the house of Israel, seek me, and you will live. Now don't seek Bethel, nor enter into Gilgal, and don't pass to Beersheba, for Gilgal shall surely go into captivity, and Bethel shall come to nothing. Seek Yahweh, and you will live, lest he break out like fire in the house of Joseph, and it devour, and there be no one to quench it in Bethel. You who turn justice to wormwood, and cast down righteousness to the earth. Seek him who made the Pleiades and Orion, and turns the shadow of death into the morning, and makes the day dark with night, who calls for the waters of the sea, and pours them out on the surface of the earth. Yahweh is his name, who brings sudden destruction on the strong, so that destruction comes on the fortress. They hate him who reproves in the gate, and they abhor him who speaks blamelessly. Therefore, because you trample on the poor and take taxes from him of wheat, you have built houses of cut stone, but you will not dwell in them. You have planted pleasant vineyards, but you shall not drink their wine. For I know how many are your offenses, and how great are your sins. You will afflict the just, who take a bribe, and who turn away the needy in the courts. Therefore a prudent person keeps silent in such a time, for it is an evil time. Seek good and not evil, that you may live, and so Yahweh, the God of armies, will be with you, as you say. Hate evil, love good, and establish justice in the courts. It may be that Yahweh, the God of armies, will be gracious to the remnant of Joseph. Therefore Yahweh, the God of armies, the Lord, says, wailing will be in all the wide ways. They will say in all the streets, alas, alas. They will call the farmer to mourning, and those who are skillful in lamentation to wailing. In all vineyards there will be wailing, for I will pass through the middle of you, says Yahweh. Woe to you who desire the day of Yahweh. Why do you long for the day of Yahweh? It is darkness and not light, as if a man fled from a lion and a bear met him, or he went into the house and leaned his hand on the wall, and a snake bit him. Won't the day of Yahweh be darkness and not light, even very dark, and no brightness in it? I despise your feasts, and I can't stand your solemn assemblies. Yes, though you offer me your burnt offerings and meal offerings, I will not accept them, neither will I regard the peace offerings of your fat animals. Take away from me the noise of your songs. I will not listen to the music of your harps. Let justice roll on like rivers, and righteousness like a mighty stream. Did you bring to me sacrifices and offerings in the wilderness 40 years, house of Israel? You also carried the tent of your king and the shrine of your images, the star of your God, which you made for yourselves. Therefore I will cause you to go into captivity beyond Damascus, says Yahweh, whose name is the God of armies. Amos, chapter 6. Woe to those who are at ease in Zion, and to those who are secure on the mountain of Samaria, the notable men of the chief of the nations, to whom the house of Israel come. Go to Calneh and see, from there go to Hamath the great, then go down to Gath of the Philistines. Are they better than these kingdoms? Is their border greater than your border? Alas for you who put far away the evil day, and cause the seat of violence to come near, who lie on beds of ivory, and stretch themselves on their couches, and eat the lambs out of the flock, and the calves out of the middle of the stall, who strum on the strings of a harp, who invent for themselves instruments of music, like David, who drink wine in bowls, and anoint themselves with the best oils, that they are not grieved for the affliction of Joseph. Therefore they will now go captive with the first who go captive. The feasting and lounging will end. The Lord Yahweh has sworn by himself, says Yahweh, the God of armies, I abhor the pride of Jacob, and detest his fortresses. Therefore I will deliver up the city with all that is in it. It will happen that if 10 men remain in one house, they will die. When a man's relative carries him, even he who burns him, to bring bodies out of the house, and asks him who is in the innermost parts of the house, is there yet any with you? And he says, no, then he will say, hush, indeed we must not mention Yahweh's name. For, behold, Yahweh commands, and the great house will be smashed to pieces, and the little house into bits. Do horses run on the rocky crags? Does one plow there with oxen? That you have turned justice into poison, and the fruit of righteousness into bitterness? You who rejoice in a thing of nothing, who say, haven't we taken for ourselves horns by our own strength? For, behold, I will raise up against you a nation, house of Israel, says Yahweh, the God of armies, and they will afflict you from the entrance of Hamath to the brook of the Arabah. Chapter 7. Thus the Lord Yahweh showed me, behold, he formed locusts in the beginning of the shooting up of the latter growth, and behold, it was the latter growth after the king's harvest. When they finished eating the grass of the land, then I said, Lord Yahweh, forgive, I beg you. How could Jacob stand? For he is small. Yahweh relented concerning this. It shall not be, says Yahweh. Thus the Lord Yahweh showed me, behold, the Lord Yahweh called for judgment by fire, and it dried up the great deep, and would have devoured the land. Then I said, Lord Yahweh, stop, I beg you. How could Jacob stand? For he is small. Yahweh relented concerning this. This also shall not be, says the Lord Yahweh. Thus he showed me, behold, the Lord stood beside a wall made by a plumb line, with a plumb line in his hand. Yahweh said to me, Amos, what do you see? I said, a plumb line. Then the Lord said, behold, I will set a plumb line in the middle of my people Israel. I will not again pass by them any more. The high places of Isaac will be desolate, the sanctuaries of Israel will be laid waste, and I will rise against the house of Jeroboam with the sword. Then Amaziah the priest of Bethel sent to Jeroboam king of Israel, saying, Amos has conspired against you in the middle of the house of Israel. The land is not able to bear all his words. For Amos says, Jeroboam will die by the sword, and Israel shall surely be led away captive out of his land. Amaziah also said to Amos, you seer, go, flee away into the land of Judah, and there eat bread, and prophesy there. But don't prophesy again any more at Bethel, for it is the king's sanctuary, and it is a royal house. Then Amos answered Amaziah, I was no prophet, neither was I a prophet's son, but I was a herdsman, and a farmer of sycamore figs. And Yahweh took me from following the flock, and Yahweh said to me, Go, prophesy to my people Israel. Now therefore listen to Yahweh's word. You say, don't prophesy against Israel, and don't preach against the house of Isaac. Therefore Yahweh says, your wife shall be a prostitute in the city, and your sons and your daughters shall fall by the sword, and your land shall be divided by line, and you yourself shall die in a land that is unclean, and Israel shall surely be led away captive out of his land. Chapter 8. Thus the Lord Yahweh showed me, behold, a basket of summer fruit. He said, Amos, what do you see? I said, a basket of summer fruit. Then Yahweh said to me, the end has come on my people Israel. I will not again pass by them any more. The songs of the temple will be wailing in that day, says the Lord Yahweh. The dead bodies will be many. In every place they will throw them out with silence. Hear this, you who desire to swallow up the needy and cause the poor of the land to fail, saying, when will the new moon be gone, that we may sell grain? And the Sabbath, that we may market wheat, making the ephah small, and the shekel large, and dealing falsely with balances of deceit, that we may buy the poor for silver, and the needy for a pair of sandals, and sell the sweepings with the wheat. Yahweh has sworn by the pride of Jacob, surely I will never forget any of their works. Won't the land tremble for this, and everyone mourn who dwells in it? Yes, it will rise up wholly like the river, and it will be stirred up and sink again, like the river of Egypt. It will happen in that day, says the Lord Yahweh, that I will cause the sun to go down at noon, and I will darken the earth in the clear day. I will turn your feasts into mourning, and all your songs into lamentation, and I will make you wear sackcloth on all your bodies, and baldness on every head. I will make it like the mourning for an only son, and its end like a bitter day. Behold, the days come, says the Lord Yahweh, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing Yahweh's words. They will wander from sea to sea, and from the north even to the east. They will run back and forth to seek Yahweh's word, and will not find it. In that day the beautiful virgins and the young men will faint for thirst. Those who swear by the sin of Samaria, and say, as your God, Dan, lives, and as the way of Beersheba lives, they will fall, and never rise up again. Chapter 9. I saw the Lord standing beside the altar, and he said, strike the tops of the pillars, that the thresholds may shake. Break them in pieces on the head of all of them. I will kill the last of them with the sword. Not one of them will flee away, not one of them will escape. Though they dig into Sheol, there my hand will take them, and though they climb up to heaven, there I will bring them down. Though they hide themselves in the top of Carmel, I will search and take them out from there. And though they be hidden from my sight in the bottom of the sea, there I will command the serpent, and it will bite them. Though they go into captivity before their enemies, there I will command the sword, and it will kill them. I will set my eyes on them for evil, and not for good. For the Lord, Yahweh of armies, is he who touches the land, and it melts, and all who dwell in it will mourn. And it will rise up wholly like the river, and will sink again, like the river of Egypt. It is he who builds his rooms in the heavens, and has founded his vault on the earth, he who calls for the waters of the sea, and pours them out on the surface of the earth. Yahweh is his name. Are you not like the children of the Ethiopians to me, children of Israel? Says Yahweh. Haven't I brought up Israel out of the land of Egypt, and the Philistines from Caphtor, and the Syrians from Kir? Behold, the eyes of the Lord Yahweh are on the sinful kingdom, and I will destroy it from off the surface of the earth, except that I will not utterly destroy the house of Jacob, says Yahweh. For behold, I will command, and I will sift the house of Israel among all the nations as grain is sifted in a sieve, yet not the least kernel will fall on the earth. All the sinners of my people will die by the sword, who say, evil won't overtake nor meet us. In that day I will raise up the tent of David who has fallen, and close up its breaches, and I will raise up its ruins, and I will build it as in the days of old, that they may possess the remnant of Edom and all the nations who are called by my name, says Yahweh who does this. Behold, the days come, says Yahweh, that the plowman shall overtake the reaper, and the one one treading grapes him who sows seed, and sweet wine will drip from the mountains and flow from the hills. I will bring my people Israel back from captivity, and they will rebuild the ruined cities and inhabit them, and they will plant vineyards and drink wine from them. They shall also make gardens and eat their fruit. I will plant them on their land, and they will no more be plucked up out of their land which I have given them, says Yahweh your God. The Book of Obadiah, Chapter 1, the Vision of Obadiah. This is what the Lord Yahweh says about Edom. We have heard news from Yahweh, and an ambassador is sent among the nations, saying, Arise, and let's rise up against her in battle. Behold, I have made you small among the nations. You are greatly despised. The pride of your heart has deceived you, you who dwell in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, who says in his heart, Who will bring me down to the ground? Though you mount on high as the eagle, and though your nest is set among the stars, I will bring you down from there, says Yahweh. If thieves came to you, if robbers by night, oh, what disaster awaits you, wouldn't they only steal until they had enough? If grape pickers came to you, wouldn't they leave some gleaning grapes? How Esau would be ransacked, how his hidden treasures are sought out. All the men of your alliance have brought you on your way, even to the border. The men who were at peace with you have deceived you and prevailed against you. Friends who eat your bread lay a snare under you. There is no understanding in him. Won't I in that day, says Yahweh, destroy the wise men out of Edom, and understanding out of the mountain of Esau. Your mighty men, Teman, will be dismayed, to the end that everyone may be cut off from the mountain of Esau by slaughter. For the violence done to your brother Jacob, shame will cover you, and you will be cut off forever. In the day that you stood on the other side, in the day that strangers carried away his substance, and foreigners entered into his gates and cast lots for Jerusalem, even you were like one of them. But don't look down on your brother in the day of his disaster, and don't rejoice over the children of Judah in the day of their destruction. Don't speak proudly in the day of distress. Don't enter into the gate of my people in the day of their calamity. Don't look down on their affliction in the day of their calamity, neither seize their wealth on the day of their calamity. Don't stand in the crossroads to cut off those of his who escape. Don't deliver up those of his who remain in the day of distress. For the day of Yahweh is near all the nations. As you have done, it will be done to you. Your deeds will return upon your own head. For as you have drunk on my holy mountain, so all the nations will drink continually. Yes, they will drink, swallow down, and will be as though they had not been. But in Mount Zion there will be those who escape, and it will be holy. The house of Jacob will possess their possessions. The house of Jacob will be a fire, the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble. It will burn among them and devour them. There will not be any remaining to the house of Esau. Indeed, Yahweh has spoken. Those of the south will possess the mountain of Esau, and those of the lowland, the Philistines. They will possess the field of Ephraim and the field of Samaria. Benjamin will possess Gilead. The captives of this army of the children of Israel, who are among the Canaanites, will possess even to Zarephath, and the captives of Jerusalem, who are in Sepharad, will possess the cities of the Negev. Saviors will go up on Mount Zion to judge the mountains of Esau, and the kingdom will be Yahweh's. The Book of Jonah, Chapter 1. Now Yahweh's word came to Jonah the son of Amittai, saying, Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and preach against it, for their wickedness has come up before me. But Jonah rose up to flee to Tarshish from the presence of Yahweh. He went down to Joppa and found a ship going to Tarshish, so he paid its fare and went down into it to go with them to Tarshish from the presence of Yahweh. But Yahweh sent out a great wind on the sea, and there was a mighty storm on the sea, so that the ship was likely to break up. Then the mariners were afraid, and every man cried to his God. They threw the cargo that was in the ship into the sea to lighten the ship. But Jonah had gone down into the innermost parts of the ship, and he was laying down, and was fast asleep. So the shipmaster came to him, and said to him, What do you mean, sleeper? Arise, call on your God. Maybe your God will notice us, so that we won't perish. They all said to each other, Come, let's cast lots, that we may know who is responsible for this evil that is on us. So they cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. Then they asked him, Tell us, please, for whose cause this evil is on us. What is your occupation? Where do you come from? What is your country? Of what people are you? He said to them, I am a Hebrew, and I fear Yahweh, the God of heaven, who has made the sea and the dry land. Then the men were exceedingly afraid, and said to him, What have you done? For the men knew that he was fleeing from the presence of Yahweh, because he had told them. Then they said to him, What shall we do to you, that the sea may be calm to us? For the sea grew more and more stormy. He said to them, Take me up and throw me into the sea, and the sea will be calm for you, for I know that because of me this great storm is on you. Nevertheless, the men rowed hard to get them back to the land, but they could not, for the sea grew more and more stormy against them. Therefore they cried to Yahweh and said, We beg you, Yahweh, we beg you, don't let us die for this man's life, and don't lay on us innocent blood, for you, Yahweh, have done as it pleased you. So they took up Jonah and threw him into the sea, and the sea ceased its raging. Then the men feared Yahweh exceedingly, and they offered a sacrifice to Yahweh and made vows. Yahweh prepared a huge fish to swallow up Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. Jonah chapter 2. Then Jonah prayed to Yahweh, his God, out of the fish's belly. He said, I called because of my affliction to Yahweh. He answered me. Out of the belly of Sheol I cried. You heard my voice, for you threw me into the depths, in the heart of the seas. The flood was all around me. All your waves and your billows passed over me. I said, I have been banished from your sight, yet I will look again toward your holy temple. The waters surrounded me, even to the soul. The deep was around me. The weeds were wrapped around my head. I went down to the bottoms of the mountains. The earth barred me in forever, yet you have brought my life up from the pit, Yahweh my God. When my soul fainted within me, I remembered Yahweh. My prayer came into you, into your holy temple. Those who regard vain idols forsake their own mercy. But I will sacrifice to you with the voice of thanksgiving. I will pay that which I have vowed. Salvation belongs to Yahweh. Then Yahweh spoke to the fish, and it vomited out Jonah on the dry land. Chapter 3. Yahweh's word came to Jonah the second time, saying, Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and preach to it the message that I give you. So Jonah arose and went to Nineveh, according to Yahweh's word. Now Nineveh was an exceedingly great city, 3 days' journey across. Jonah began to enter into the city a day's journey, and he cried out and said, In 40 days Nineveh would be overthrown. The people of Nineveh believed God, and they proclaimed a fast and put on sackcloth, from their greatest even to their least. The news reached the king of Nineveh, and he arose from his throne, took off his royal robe, covered himself with sackcloth, and sat in ashes. He made a proclamation and published through Nineveh by the decree of the king and his nobles, saying, Let neither man nor animal, herd nor flock, taste anything, let them not feed, nor drink water, but let them be covered with sackcloth, both man and animal, and let them cry mightily to God. Yes, let them turn everyone from his evil way and from the violence that is in his hands. Who knows whether God will not turn and relent, and turn away from his fierce anger, so that we might not perish. God saw their works, that they turned from their evil way. God relented of the disaster which he said he would do to them, and he didn't do it. Chapter 4. That it displeased Jonah exceedingly, and he was angry. He prayed to Yahweh and said, Please, Yahweh, wasn't this what I said when I was still in my own country? Therefore I hurried to flee to Tarshish, for I knew that you are a gracious God and merciful, slow to anger, and abundant in loving kindness, and you relent of doing harm. Therefore now, Yahweh, take, I beg you, my life from me, for it is better for me to die than to live. Yahweh said, Is it right for you to be angry? Then Jonah went out of the city and sat on the east side of the city, and there made himself a booth and sat under it in the shade, until he might see what would become of the city. Yahweh God prepared a vine and made it to come up over Jonah, that it might be a shade over his head to deliver him from his discomfort. So Jonah was exceedingly glad because of the vine. But God prepared a worm at dawn the next day, and it chewed on the vine so that it withered. When the sun arose, God prepared a sultry east wind, and the sun beat on Jonah's head, so that he was faint and requested for himself that he might die. He said, It is better for me to die than to live. God said to Jonah, Is it right for you to be angry about the vine? He said, I am right to be angry, even to death. Yahweh said, You have been concerned for the vine, for which you have not labored, neither made it grow, which came up in the night and perished in the night. Shouldn't I be concerned for Nineveh, that great city, in which are more than 120,000 persons who can't discern between their right hand and their left hand, and also many animals? The book of Micah, chapter 1. Yahweh's word that came to Micah of Moresheth in the days of Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, which he saw concerning Samaria and Jerusalem. Hear, you peoples, all of you. Listen, O earth, and all that is therein. Let the Lord Yahweh be a witness against you, the Lord from his holy temple. For behold, Yahweh comes out of his place, and will come down and tread on the high places of the earth. The mountains melt under him, and the valleys split apart like wax before the fire, like waters that are poured down a steep place. All this is for the disobedience of Jacob, and for the sins of the house of Israel. What is the disobedience of Jacob? Isn't it Samaria? And what are the high places of Judah? Aren't they Jerusalem? Therefore I will make Samaria like a rubble heap of the field, like places for planting vineyards, and I will pour down its stones into the valley. and I will uncover its foundations. All her idols will be beaten to pieces, all her temple gifts will be burned with fire, and I will destroy all her images. For of the hire of a prostitute has she gathered them, and to the hire of a prostitute shall they return. For this I will lament and wail. I will go stripped and naked. I will howl like the jackals and mourn like the ostriches. For her wounds are incurable, for it has come even to Judah. It reaches to the gate of my people, even to Jerusalem. Don't tell it in Gath, don't weep at all. At Beth Ophrah I have rolled myself in the dust. Pass on, inhabitant of Shaphir, in nakedness and shame. The inhabitant of Sanin won't come out. The wailing of Beth Ezel will take from you his protection. For the inhabitant of Marath waits anxiously for good, because evil has come down from Yahweh to the gate of Jerusalem. Harness the chariot to the swift steed, inhabitant of Lachish. She was the beginning of sin to the daughter of Sion, for the transgressions of Israel were found in you. Therefore you will give a parting gift to Moshet Gath. The houses of Achzib will be a deceitful thing to the kings of Israel. I will yet bring a conqueror to you, inhabitants of Mersha. The glory of Israel will come to Adalam. Shave your heads and cut off your hair for the children of your delight. Enlarge your boldness like the vulture, for they have gone into captivity from you. Micah chapter 2. Woe to those who devise iniquity and work evil on their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hand. They covet fields and seize them, and houses, then take them away. They oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage. Therefore Yahweh says, Behold, I am planning against these people a disaster, from which you will not remove your necks, neither will you walk haughtily, for it is an evil time. In that day they will take up a parable against you, and lament with a doleful lamentation, saying, We are utterly ruined. My people's possession is divided up. Indeed, he takes it from me and assigns our fields to traders. Therefore you will have no one who divides the land by lot in Yahweh's assembly. Don't prophesy. Don't prophesy about these things. His grace won't overtake us. Shall it be said, O house of Jacob, is Yahweh's spirit angry? Are these his doings? Don't my words do good to him who walks blamelessly? But lately my people have risen up as an enemy. You strip the robe and clothing from those who pass by without a care, returning from battle. You drive the women of my people out from their pleasant houses. From their young children you take away my blessing forever. Arise and depart, for this is not your resting place, because of uncleanness that destroys, even with a grievous destruction. If a man walking in a spirit of falsehood lies, saying, I will prophesy to you of wine and of strong drink, you would be the prophet of this people. I will surely assemble all of you, Jacob. I will surely gather the remnant of Israel. I will put them together as the sheep of Basra, as a flock in the middle of their pasture. They will swarm with people. He who breaks open the way goes up before them. They break through the gate and go out. Their king passes on before them, with Yahweh at their head. Micah chapter 3. I said, Please listen, you heads of Jacob and rulers of the house of Israel. Isn't it for you to know justice? You who hate the good and love the evil, who tear off their skin and their flesh from off their bones, who also eat the flesh of my people and peel their skin from off them and break their bones and chop them in pieces, as for the pot and as meat within the cauldron. Then they will cry to Yahweh, but he will not answer them. Yes, he will hide his face from them at that time, because they made their deeds evil. Yahweh says concerning the prophets who lead my people astray, for those who feed their teeth, they proclaim peace, and whoever doesn't provide for their mouths, they prepare war against him. Therefore night is over you with no vision, and it is dark to you that you may not divine, and the sun will go down on the prophets, and the day will be black over them. The seers shall be disappointed, and the diviners confounded. Yes, they shall all cover their lips, for there is no answer from God. But as for me, I am full of power by Yahweh's Spirit, and of judgment, and of might, to declare to Jacob his disobedience, and to Israel his sin. Please listen to this, you heads of the house of Jacob, and rulers of the house of Israel, who abhor justice, and pervert all equity, who build up Zion with blood, and Jerusalem with iniquity. Her leaders judge for bribes, and her priests teach for a price, and her prophets of it tell fortunes for money. Yet they lean on Yahweh, and say, Isn't Yahweh among us? No disaster will come on us. Therefore Zion for your sake will be plowed like a field, and Jerusalem will become heaps of rubble, and the mountain of the temple like the high places of a forest. Chapter 4. But in the latter days it will happen that the mountain of Yahweh's temple will be established on the top of the mountains, and it will be exalted above the hills, and peoples will stream to it. Many nations will go and say, Come, let's go up to the mountain of Yahweh, and to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For the law will go out of Zion, and Yahweh's word from Jerusalem. And he will judge between many peoples, and will decide concerning strong nations afar off. They will beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not lift up sword against nation, neither will they learn war any more. That every man will sit under his vine and under his fig tree. No one will make them afraid, for the mouth of Yahweh of armies has spoken. Indeed, all the nations may walk in the name of their gods, but we will walk in the name of Yahweh our God forever and ever. In that day, says Yahweh, I will assemble that which is lame, and I will gather that which is driven away, and that which I have afflicted, and I will make that which was lame a remnant, and that which was cast far off a strong nation, and Yahweh will reign over them on Mount Zion from then on, even forever. You, tower of the flock, the hill of the daughter of Zion, to you will come. Yes, the former dominion will come, the kingdom of the daughter of Jerusalem. Now why do you cry out aloud? Is there no king in you? Has your counselor perished, that pains have taken hold of you as of a woman in travail? Be in pain and labor to give birth, daughter of Zion, like a woman in travail. For now you will go out of the city, and will dwell in the field, and will come even to Babylon. There you will be rescued. There Yahweh will redeem you from the hand of your enemies. Now many nations have assembled against you, that say, let her be defiled, and let our eye gloat over Zion. That they don't know the thoughts of Yahweh, neither do they understand his counsel. For he has gathered them like the sheaves to the threshing floor. Arise and thresh, daughter of Zion, for I will make your horn iron, and I will make your hoofs bronze. You will beat in pieces many peoples. I will devote their gain to Yahweh, and their substance to the Lord of the whole earth. Micah chapter 5. Now you shall gather yourself in troops, daughter of troops. He has laid siege against us. He will strike the judge of Israel with a rod on the cheek. That you, Bethlehem Ephratah, being small among the clans of Judah, out of you one will come out to me who is to be ruler in Israel, whose goings out are from of old, from ancient times. Therefore he will abandon them until the time that she who is in labor gives birth, and the rest of his brothers will return to the children of Israel. He shall stand and shall shepherd in the strength of Yahweh, in the majesty of the name of Yahweh his God. He will live, for then he will be great to the ends of the earth. He will be our peace when Assyria invades our land, and when he marches through our fortresses. Then we will raise against him 7 shepherds and 8 leaders of men. He will rule the land of Assyria with the sword, and the land of Nimrod in its gates. He will deliver us from the Assyrian when he invades our land, and when he marches within our border. The remnant of Jacob will be among many peoples like dew from Yahweh, like showers on the grass, that doth wait for man, nor wait for the sons of men. The remnant of Jacob will be among the nations, among many peoples, like a lion among the animals of the forest, like a young lion among the flocks of sheep, who, if he goes through, treads down and tears in pieces, and there is no one to deliver. Let your hand be lifted up above your adversaries, and let all of your enemies be cut off. It will happen in that day, says Yahweh, that I will cut off your horses from among you, and will destroy your chariots. I will cut off the cities of your land, and will tear down all your strongholds. I will destroy witchcraft from your hand. You shall have no soothsayers. I will cut off your engraved images and your pillars from among you, and you shall no more worship the work of your hands. I will uproot your Asherah poles from among you, and I will destroy your cities. I will execute vengeance and anger and wrath on the nations that didn't listen. Chapter 6. Listen now to what Yahweh says. Arise, plead your case before the mountains, and let the hills hear what you have to say. Hear, you mountains, Yahweh's indictment, and you enduring foundations of the earth, for Yahweh has a case against his people, and he will contend with Israel. My people, what have I done to you? How have I burdened you? Answer me, for I brought you up out of the land of Egypt, and redeemed you out of the house of bondage. I sent before you Moses, Aaron, and Miriam. My people, remember now what Balak king of Moab devised, and what Balaam the son of Beor answered him from Shittim to Gilgal, that you may know the righteous acts of Yahweh. How shall I come before Yahweh, and bow myself before the exalted God? Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves a year old? Will Yahweh be pleased with thousands of rams, with tens of thousands of rivers of oil? Shall I give my firstborn for my disobedience, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? He has shown you, O man, what is good. What does Yahweh require of you but to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God? Yahweh's voice calls to the city, and wisdom fears your name. Listen to the rod, and he who appointed it. Are there yet treasures of wickedness in the house of the wicked, and a short effort that is accursed? Shall I tolerate dishonest scales, and a bag of deceitful weights? Her rich men are full of violence, her inhabitants speak lies, and their tongue is deceitful in their speech. Therefore I also have struck you with a grievous wound. I have made you desolate because of your sins. You shall eat, but not be satisfied. Your hunger will be within you. You will store up, but not save, and that which you save I will give up to the sword. You will sow, but won't reap. You will tread the olives, but won't anoint yourself with oil, and crush grapes, but won't drink the wine. For the statutes of Omri are kept, and all the works of Ahab's house. You walk in their counsels, that I may make you a ruin, and your inhabitants a hissing. You will bear the reproach of my people. Chapter 7. Misery is mine. Indeed, I am like one who gathers the summer fruits as gleanings of the vineyard. There is no cluster of grapes to eat. My soul desires to eat the early fig. The godly man has perished out of the earth, and there is no one upright among men. They all lie in wait for blood. Every man hunts his brother with a net. Their hands are on that which is evil to do it diligently. The ruler and judge ask for a bribe. The powerful man dictates the evil desire of his soul. Thus they conspire together. The best of them is like a briar. The most upright is worse than a thorn hedge. The day of your watchman, even your visitation, has come. Now is the time of their confusion. Don't trust in a neighbor. Don't put confidence in a friend. With the woman lying in your embrace, be careful of the words of your mouth. For the son dishonors the father, the daughter rises up against her mother, the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies are the men of his own house. But as for me, I will look to Yahweh. I will wait for the God of my salvation. My God will hear me. He'll rejoice against me, my enemy. When I fall, I will arise. When I sit in darkness, Yahweh will be a light to me. I will bear the indignation of Yahweh, because I have sinned against him. Until he pleads my case and executes judgment for me, he will bring me out to the light. I will see his righteousness. Then my enemy will see it, and shame will cover her who said to me, Where is Yahweh your God? My eyes will see her. Now she will be trodden down like the mire of the streets, a day to build your walls. In that day you will extend your boundary. In that day they will come to you from Assyria and the cities of Egypt, and from Egypt even to the river, and from sea to sea, and mountain to mountain. Yet the land will be desolate because of those who dwell therein, for the fruit of their doings. Shepherd your people with your staff, the flock of your heritage, who dwell by themselves in a forest. Let them feed in the middle of fertile pasture land, in Bashan and Gilead, as in the days of old. As in the days of your coming out of the land of Egypt, I will show them marvelous things. The nations will see and be ashamed of all their might. They will lay their hand on their mouths. Their ears will be deaf. They will lick the dust like a serpent. Like crawling things of the earth, they will come trembling out of their dens. They will come with fear to Yahweh our God, and will be afraid because of you. Who is a God like you, who pardons iniquity and passes over the disobedience of the remnant of his heritage? He doesn't retain his anger forever, because he delights in loving kindness. He will again have compassion on us. He will tread our iniquities underfoot. He will cast all their sins into the depths of the sea. He will give truth to Jacob and mercy to Abraham, as he have sworn to our fathers from the days of old. The Book of Nahum, Chapter 1, a revelation about Nineveh. The book of the vision of Nahum the Elkoshite. Yahweh is a jealous God and avenges. Yahweh avenges and is full of wrath. Yahweh takes vengeance on his adversaries, and he maintains wrath against his enemies. Yahweh is slow to anger and great in power, and will by no means leave the guilty unpunished. Yahweh has his way in the whirlwind and in the storm, and the clouds are the dust of his feet. He rebukes the sea and makes it dry, and dries up all the rivers. Bashan and Carmel languish. The flower of Lebanon languishes. The mountains quake before him, and the hills melt away. The earth trembles at his presence, yes, the world, and all who dwell in it. Who can stand before his indignation? Who can endure the fierceness of his anger? His wrath is poured out like fire, and the rocks are broken apart by him. Yahweh is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble, and he knows those who take refuge in him. That with an overflowing flood you will make a full end of her place, and will pursue his enemies into darkness. What do you plot against Yahweh? You will make a full end. Affliction will rise up the second time. For entangled like thorns, and drunken as with their drink, they are consumed utterly like dry stubble. One has gone out of you who devises evil against Yahweh, who counsels wickedness. Yahweh says, though they are in full strength and likewise many, even so they will be cut down and pass away. Though I have afflicted you, I will afflict you no more. Now I will break his yoke from off you, and will burst your bonds apart. Yahweh has commanded concerning you, no more descendants will bear your name. Out of the house of your gods I will cut off the engraved image and the molten image. I will make your grave, for you are vile. Behold, on the mountains the feet of him who brings good news, who publishes peace. Keep your feasts, Judah. Perform your vows, for the wicked one will no more pass through you. He is utterly cut off. The Book of Nahum, Chapter 1, a revelation about Nineveh. The book of the vision of Nahum the Elkoshite. Yahweh is a jealous God and avenges. Yahweh avenges and is full of wrath. Yahweh takes vengeance on his adversaries, and he maintains wrath against his enemies. Yahweh is slow to anger and great in power, and will by no means leave the guilty unpunished. Yahweh has his way in the whirlwind and in the storm, and the clouds are the dust of his feet. He rebukes the sea and makes it dry, and dries up all the rivers. Bashan and Carmel languish. The flower of Lebanon languishes. The mountains quake before him, and the hills melt away. The earth trembles at his presence, yes, the world, and all who dwell in it. Who can stand before his indignation? Who can endure the fierceness of his anger? His wrath is poured out like fire, and the rocks are broken apart by him. Yahweh is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble, and he knows those who take refuge in him. But with an overflowing flood, you will make a full end of her place, and will pursue his enemies into darkness. What do you plot against Yahweh? He will make a full end. Affliction will rise up the second time. For entangled like thorns, and drunken as with their drink, they are consumed utterly like dry stubble. One has gone out of you who devises evil against Yahweh, who counsels wickedness. Yahweh says, though they are in full strength and likewise many, even so they will be cut down and pass away. Though I have afflicted you, I will afflict you no more. Now I will break his yoke from off you, and will burst your bonds apart. Yahweh has commanded concerning you, no more descendants will bear your name. Out of the house of your gods I will cut off the engraved image and the molten image. I will make your grave, for you are vile. Behold, on the mountains the feet of him who brings good news, who publishes peace. Keep your feasts, Judah. Perform your vows, for the wicked one will no more pass through you. He is utterly cut off. Chapter 2. They dash to its wall, and the protective shield is put in place. Nahum, chapter 3. Woe to the bloody city! It is all full of lies and robbery, no end to the prey. The noise of the whip, the noise of the rattling of wheels, prancing horses, and bounding chariots, the horsemen charging, and the flashing sword, the glittering spear, and a multitude of slain, and a great heap of corpses, and there is no end of the bodies. They stumble on their bodies, because of the multitude of the prostitution of the alluring prostitute, the mistress of witchcraft, who sells nations through her prostitution, and families through her witchcraft. Behold, I am against you, says Yahweh of armies, and I will lift your skirts over your face. I will show the nations your nakedness, and the kingdoms your shame. I will throw abominable filth on you and make you vile, and will make you a spectacle. It will happen that all those who look at you will flee from you, and say, Nineveh is laid waste. Who will mourn for her? Where will I seek comforters for you? Are you better than No Ammon, who was situated among the rivers, who had the waters around her, whose rampart was the sea, and her wall was of the sea? Cush and Egypt were her boundless strength. Put and Libya were her helpers. Yet was she carried away. She went into captivity. Her young children also were dashed in pieces at the head of all the streets, and they cast lots for her honorable men, and all her great men were bound in chains. You also will be drunken. You will be hidden. You also will seek a stronghold because of the enemy. All your fortresses will be like fig trees with the first ripe figs. If they are shaken, they fall into the mouth of the eater. Behold, your troops among you are women. The gates of your land are set wide open to your enemies. The fire has devoured your bars. Throw water for the siege. Strengthen your fortresses. Go into the clay and tread the mortar. Make the brick kiln strong. Ere the fire will devour you, the sword will cut you off. It will devour you like the grasshopper. Multiply like grasshoppers. Multiply like the locust. You have increased your merchants more than the stars of the skies. The grasshopper strips and flees away. Your guards are like the locusts, and your officials like the swarms of locusts, which settle on the walls on a cold day. But when the sun appears, they flee away, and their place is not known where they are. Your shepherds slumber, king of Assyria. Your nobles lie down. Your people are scattered on the mountains, and there is no one to gather them. There is no healing your wound, for your injury is fatal. All who hear the report of you clap their hands over you, for who hasn't felt your endless cruelty? The book of Habakkuk, chapter 1, the revelation which Habakkuk the prophet saw. Yahweh, how long will I cry, and you will not hear? I cry out to you violence, and will you not save? Why do you show me iniquity, and look at perversity? For destruction and violence are before me. There is strife, and contention rises up. Therefore the law is paralyzed, and justice never prevails. For the wicked surround the righteous, therefore justice comes out perverted. Look among the nations, watch, and wonder marvelously. For I am working a work in your days which you will not believe, though it is told you. For, behold, I am raising up the Chaldeans, that bitter and hasty nation who march through the width of the earth, to possess dwelling places that are not theirs. They are feared and dreaded. Their judgment and their dignity proceed from themselves. Their horses also are swifter than leopards, and are more fierce than the evening wolves. Their horsemen press proudly on. Yes, their horsemen come from afar. They fly as an eagle that hurries to devour. All of them come for violence. Their hordes face forward. They gather prisoners like sand. Yes, they scoff at kings, and princes are a derision to them. They laugh at every stronghold, for they build up an earthen ramp and take it. Then they sweep by like the wind and go on. They are indeed guilty, whose strength is their God. Aren't you from everlasting, Yahweh my God, my Holy One? We will not die. Yahweh, you have appointed them for judgment. You, Rock, have established him to punish. You who have purer eyes than to see evil, and who cannot look on perversity. Why do you tolerate those who deal treacherously, and keep silent when the wicked swallows up the man who is more righteous than he, and make men like the fish of the sea, like the creeping things that have no ruler over them? He takes up all of them with the hook. He catches them in his net and gathers them in his dragnet. Therefore he rejoices and is glad. Therefore he sacrifices to his net and burns incense to his dragnet, because by them his life is luxurious and his food is good. Will he therefore continually empty his net and kill the nations without mercy? Habakkuk, chapter 2. I will stand at my watch and set myself on the ramparts, and will look out to see what he will say to me, and what I will answer concerning my complaint. Yahweh answered me, write the vision, and make it plain on tablets, that he who runs may read it. For the vision is yet for the appointed time, and it hurries toward the end, and won't prove false. Though it takes time, wait for it, because it will surely come. It won't delay. Behold, his soul is puffed up. It is not upright in him, but the righteous will live by his faith. Yes, moreover, wine is treacherous, an arrogant man who doesn't stay at home, who enlarges his desire as Sheol. He is like death and can't be satisfied, but gathers to himself all nations and heaps to himself all peoples. Won't all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him who increases that which is not his, and who enriches himself by extortion? How long? Won't your debtors rise up suddenly, and wake up those who make you tremble, and you will be their victim? Because you have plundered many nations, all the remnant of the peoples will plunder you because of men's blood, and for the violence done to the land, to the city, and to all who dwell in it. Woe to him who gets an evil gain for his house, that he may set his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the hand of evil. You have devised shame to your house by cutting off many peoples, and have sinned against your soul. For the stone will cry out of the wall, and the beam out of the woodwork will answer it. Woe to him who builds a town with blood, and establishes a city by iniquity. Behold, isn't it from Yahweh of armies that the peoples labor for the fire, and the nations weary themselves for vanity? For the earth will be filled with the knowledge of Yahweh's glory, as the waters cover the sea. Woe to him who gives his neighbor drink, pouring your inflaming wine until they are drunk, so that you may gaze at their naked bodies. You are filled with shame and not glory. You will also drink and be exposed. The cup of Yahweh's right hand will come around to you, and disgrace will cover your glory. For the violence done to Lebanon will overwhelm you, and the destruction of the animals will terrify you, because of men's blood, and for the violence done to the land, to every city and to those who dwell in them. What value does the engraved image have, that its maker has engraved it, the molten image, even the teacher of lies, that he who fashions its form trusts in it to make mute idols? Woe to him who says to the wood, awake, or to the mute stone, arise. Shall this teach? Behold, it is overlaid with gold and silver, and there is no breath at all within it, that Yahweh is in his holy temple. Let all the earth be silent before him. Habakkuk, chapter 3. A prayer of Habakkuk, the prophet, set to victorious music. Yahweh, I have heard of your fame. I stand in awe of your deeds, Yahweh. Renew your work in the middle of the years. In the middle of the years make it known. In wrath you remember mercy. God came from Teman, the Holy One from Mount Sinai. Selah, his glory covered the heavens, and his praise filled the earth. His splendor is like the sunrise. Rays shine from his hand, where his power is hidden. Plague went before him, and pestilence followed his feet. He stood and shook the earth. He looked and made the nations tremble. The ancient mountains were crumbled. The age-old hills collapsed. His ways are eternal. I saw the tents of Cushan in affliction. The dwellings of the land of Midian trembled. Was Yahweh displeased with the rivers? Was your anger against the rivers, or your wrath against the sea, that you rode on your horses, on your chariots of salvation? You uncovered your bow. You called for your sworn arrows. Selah, you split the earth with rivers. The mountains saw you and were afraid. The storm of waters passed by. The deep roared and lifted up its hands on high. The sun and moon stood still in the sky at the light of your arrows as they went, at the shining of your glittering spear. You marched through the land in wrath. You threshed the nations in anger. You went out for the salvation of your people, for the salvation of your anointed. You crushed the head of the land of wickedness. You stripped them head to foot. Selah, you pierced the heads of his warriors with their own spears. They came as a whirlwind to scatter me, gloating as if to devour the wretched in secret. You trampled the sea with your horses, churning mighty waters. I heard, and my body trembled. My lips quivered at the voice. Rottenness enters into my bones, and I tremble in my place because I must wait quietly for the day of trouble, for the coming up of the people who invade us. For even though the fig tree doesn't flourish, nor fruit be in the vines, the labor of the olive fails, the fields yield no food, the flocks are cut off from the fold, and there is no herd in the stalls, yet I will rejoice in Yahweh. I will be joyful in the God of my salvation. Yahweh, the Lord, is my strength. He makes my feet like deer's feet and enables me to go in high places. For the music director on my stringed instruments. The book of Zephaniah, chapter 1. Yahweh's word which came to Zephaniah, the son of Cushi, the son of Jedaliah, the son of Amariah, the son of Hezekiah, in the days of Josiah, the son of Ammon, king of Judah. I will utterly sweep away everything from the surface of the earth, says Yahweh. I will sweep away man and animal. I will sweep away the birds of the sky, the fish of the sea, and the heaps of rubble with the wicked. I will cut off man from the surface of the earth, says Yahweh. I will stretch out my hand against Judah and against all the inhabitants of Jerusalem. I will cut off the remnant of Baal from this place, the name of the idolaters and pagan priests, those who worship the army of the sky and the housetops, those who worship and swear by Yahweh and also swear by Malcham, those who have turned back from following Yahweh, and those who haven't sought Yahweh nor inquired after him. Be silent at the presence of the Lord Yahweh, for the day of Yahweh is at hand. For Yahweh has prepared a sacrifice. He has consecrated his guests. It will happen in the day of Yahweh's sacrifice that I will punish the princes, the king's sons, and all those who are clothed with foreign clothing. In that day I will punish all those who leap over the threshold, who fill their master's house with violence and deceit. In that day, says Yahweh, there will be the noise of a cry from the fish gate, a wailing from the second quarter, and a great crashing from the hills. Wail, you inhabitants of Magtesh, for all the people of Canaan are undone. All those who were loaded with silver are cut off. It will happen at that time that I will search Jerusalem with lamps, and I will punish the men who are settled on their dregs, who say in their heart, Yahweh will not do good, neither will he do evil. Their wealth will become a plunder, and their houses a desolation. Yes, they will build houses, but won't inhabit them. They will plant vineyards, but won't drink their wine. The great day of Yahweh is near. It is near and hurries greatly, the voice of the day of Yahweh. The mighty man cries there bitterly. That day is a day of wrath, a day of distress and anguish, a day of trouble and ruin, a day of darkness and gloom, a day of clouds and blackness, a day of the trumpet and alarm against the fortified cities and against the high battlements. I will bring such distress on men that they will walk like blind men because they have sinned against Yahweh. Their blood will be poured out like dust and their flesh like dung. Neither their silver nor their gold will be able to deliver them in the day of Yahweh's wrath. But the whole land will be devoured by the fire of his jealousy, for he will make an end, yes, a terrible end, of all those who dwell in the land. Zephaniah, chapter 2. Gather yourselves together, yes, gather together, you nation that has no shame, before the appointed time when the day passes as the chaff, before the fierce anger of Yahweh comes on you, before the day of Yahweh's anger comes on you. Seek Yahweh, all you humble of the land, who have kept his ordinances. Seek righteousness, seek humility. It may be that you will be hidden in the day of Yahweh's anger. For Gaza will be forsaken, and Ashkelon a desolation. He will drive out Ashdod at noonday, and Ekron will be rooted up. Woe to the inhabitants of the sea coast, the nation of the Cherethites. Yahweh's word is against you, Canaan, the land of the Philistines. I will destroy you until there is no inhabitant. The sea coast will be pastures, with cottages for shepherds and folds for flocks. The coast will be for the remnant of the house of Judah. They will find pasture. I have heard the reproach of Moab and the insults of the children of Ammon, with which they have reproached my people and magnified themselves against their border. Therefore, as I live, says Yahweh of armies, the God of Israel, surely Moab will be as Sodom, and the children of Ammon as Gomorrah, a possession of nettles and salt pits, and a perpetual desolation. The remnant of my people will plunder them, and the survivors of my nation will inherit them. Yahweh will be awesome to them, for he will famish all the gods of the land. Their calls will echo through the windows. Desolation will be in the thresholds, for he has laid bare the cedar beams. Zephaniah chapter 3. Woe to her who is rebellious and polluted, the oppressing city. She didn't obey the voice. She didn't receive correction. She didn't trust in Yahweh. She didn't draw near to her God. Her princes within her are roaring lions. Her judges are evening wolves. They leave nothing until the next day. Her prophets are arrogant and treacherous people. Her priests have profaned the sanctuary. They have done violence to the law. Yahweh within her is righteous. He will do no wrong. Every morning he brings his justice to light. He doesn't fail, but the unjust know no shame. I have cut off nations. Their battlements are desolate. I have made their streets waste so that no one passes by. Their cities are destroyed so that there is no man, so that there is no inhabitant. I said, just fear me. Receive correction so that her dwelling won't be cut off, according to all that I have appointed concerning her. That they rose early and corrupted all their doings. Therefore wait for me, says Yahweh, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms to pour on them my indignation, even all my fierce anger, for all the earth will be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. For then I will purify the lips of the peoples, that they may all call on Yahweh's name, to serve him shoulder to shoulder. From beyond the rivers of Cush, my worshippers, even the daughter of my dispersed people, will bring my offering. In that day you will not be disappointed for all your doings in which you have transgressed against me. For then I will take away out from among you your proudly exulting ones, and you will no more be arrogant in my holy mountain. But I will leave among you an afflicted and poor people, and they will take refuge in Yahweh's name. The remnant of Israel will not do iniquity nor speak lies, neither will a deceitful tongue be found in their mouth, for they will feed and lie down, and no one will make them afraid. Sing, daughter of Zion, shout, Israel. Be glad and rejoice with all your heart, daughter of Jerusalem. Yahweh has taken away your judgments. He has thrown out your enemy. The King of Israel, Yahweh, is among you. You will not be afraid of evil anymore. In that day it will be said to Jerusalem, don't be afraid, Zion. Don't let your hands be weak. Yahweh, your God, is among you, a mighty one who will save. He will rejoice over you with joy. He will calm you in his love. He will rejoice over you with singing. I will remove those who grieve about the appointed feasts from you. They are a burden and a reproach to you. Behold, at that time I will deal with all those who afflict you, and I will save those who are lame and gather those who were driven away. I will give them praise and honor, whose shame has been in all the earth. At that time I will bring you in, and at that time I will gather you, for I will give you honor and praise among all the peoples of the earth when I restore your fortunes before your eyes, says Yahweh. The book of Haggai, chapter 1. In the 2nd year of Darius the king, in the 6th month, in the 1st day of the month, Yahweh's word came by Haggai the prophet to Zerubbabel the son of Shealtiel, governor of Judah, and to Joshua the son of Jehozadak, the high priest, saying, This is what Yahweh of armies says. These people say, the time hasn't yet come, the time for Yahweh's house to be built. Then Yahweh's word came by Haggai the prophet, saying, Is it a time for you yourselves to dwell in your paneled houses, while this house lies waste? Now therefore this is what Yahweh of armies says, Consider your ways. You have sown much and bring in little. You eat, but you don't have enough. You drink, but you aren't filled with drink. You clothe yourselves, but no one is warm, and he who earns wages to put them into a bag with holes in it. This is what Yahweh of armies says, Consider your ways. Go up to the mountain, bring wood, and build the house. I will take pleasure in it, and I will be glorified, says Yahweh. You looked for much, and, behold, it came to little, and when you brought it home, I blew it away. Why, says Yahweh of armies, because of my house that lies waste, while each of you is busy with his own house. Therefore for your sake the heavens withhold the dew, and the earth withholds its fruit. I called for a drought on the land, on the mountains, on the grain, on the new wine, on the oil, on that which the ground produces, on men, on livestock, and on all the labor of the hands. Then Zerubbabel the son of Shealtiel and Joshua the son of Jehozadak, the high priest, with all the remnant of the people, obeyed Yahweh their God's voice, and the words of Haggai the prophet, as Yahweh their God had sent him, and the people feared Yahweh. Then Haggai, Yahweh's messenger, spoke Yahweh's message to the people, saying, I am with you, says Yahweh. Yahweh stirred up the spirit of Zerubbabel the son of Shealtiel, governor of Judah, and the spirit of Joshua the son of Jehozadak, the high priest, and the spirit of all the remnant of the people. And they came and worked on the house of Yahweh of armies, their God, in the 24th day of the month, in the 6th month, in the 2nd year of Darius the king. Haggai, chapter 2. In the 7th month, in the 21st day of the month, Yahweh's word came by Haggai the prophet, saying, Speak now to Zerubbabel the son of Shealtiel, governor of Judah, and to Joshua the son of Jehozadak, the high priest, and to the remnant of the people, saying, Who is left among you who saw this house in its former glory? How do you see it now? Isn't it in your eyes as nothing? Yet now be strong, Zerubbabel, says Yahweh. Be strong, Joshua son of Jehozadak, the high priest. Be strong, all you people of the land, says Yahweh, and work, for I am with you, says Yahweh of armies. This is the word that I covenanted with you when you came out of Egypt, and my spirit lived among you. Don't be afraid, for this is what Yahweh of armies says, yet once more, it is a little while, and I will shake the heavens, the earth, the sea, and the dry land, and I will shake all nations. The treasure of all nations will come, and I will fill this house with glory, says Yahweh of armies. The silver is mine, and the gold is mine, says Yahweh of armies. The latter glory of this house will be greater than the former, says Yahweh of armies. And in this place I will give peace, says Yahweh of armies. In the 24th day of the 9th month, in the 2nd year of Darius, Yahweh's word came by Haggai the prophet, saying, Yahweh of armies says, Ask now the priests concerning the law, saying, If someone carries holy meat in the fold of his garment, and with his fold touches bread, stew, wine, oil, or any food, will it become holy? The priests answered, No. Then Haggai said, If one who is unclean by reason of a dead body touch any of these, will it be unclean? The priests answered, It will be unclean. Then Haggai answered, So is this people, and so is this nation before me, says Yahweh, and so is every work of their hands. That which they offer there is unclean. Now please consider from this day and backward, before a stone was laid on a stone in Yahweh's temple. Through all that time, when one came to a heap of 20 measures, there were only 10. When one came to the wine vat to draw out 50, there were only 20. I struck you with blight, mildew, and hail in all the work of your hands, yet you didn't turn to me, says Yahweh. Consider, please, from this day and backward, from the 24th day of the 9th month, since the day that the foundation of Yahweh's temple was laid, consider it. Is the seed yet in the barn? Yes, the vine, the fig tree, the pomegranate, and the olive tree have been produced. From today I will bless you. Yahweh's word came the 2nd time to Haggai in the 24th day of the month, saying, Speak to Zerubbabel, governor of Judah, saying, I will shake the heavens and the earth. I will overthrow the throne of kingdoms. I will destroy the strength of the kingdoms of the nations. I will overthrow the chariots and those who ride in them. The horses and their riders will come down, everyone by the sword of his brother. In that day, says Yahweh of armies, I will take you, Zerubbabel my servant, the son of Shealtiel, says Yahweh, and will make you like a signet ring, for I have chosen you, says Yahweh of armies. The Book of Zechariah, chapter 1. In the 8th month, in the 2nd year of Darius, Yahweh's word came to the prophet Zechariah, son of Berechiah, the son of Iddo, saying, Yahweh was very displeased with your fathers. Therefore tell them, Yahweh of armies says, Return to me, says Yahweh of armies, and I will return to you, says Yahweh of armies. Don't you be like your fathers, to whom the former prophets proclaimed, saying, Yahweh of armies says, Return now from your evil ways and from your evil doings. But they didn't hear nor listen to me, says Yahweh. Your fathers, where are they? And the prophets, do they live forever? But my words and my decrees, which I commanded my servants the prophets, didn't they overtake your fathers? Then they repented and said, Just as Yahweh of armies determined to do to us, according to our ways and according to our practices, so he has dealt with us. When the 24th day of the 11th month, which is the month Shebat, in the 2nd year of Darius, Yahweh's word came to the prophet Zechariah the son of Berechiah, the son of Iddo, saying, I had a vision in the night, and behold, a man riding on a red horse, and he stood among the myrtle trees that were in a ravine, and behind him there were red, brown and white horses. Then I asked, my Lord, what are these? The angel who talked with me said to me, I will show you what these are. The man who stood among the myrtle trees answered, they are the ones Yahweh has sent to go back and forth through the earth. He reported to Yahweh's angel who stood among the myrtle trees and said, we have walked back and forth through the earth, and behold, all the earth is at rest and in peace. Then Yahweh's angel replied, O Yahweh of armies, how long will you not have mercy on Jerusalem and on the cities of Judah, against which you have had indignation these 70 years? Yahweh answered the angel who talked with me with kind and comforting words. So the angel who talked with me said to me, proclaim, saying, Yahweh of armies says, I am jealous for Jerusalem and for Zion with a great jealousy. I am very angry with the nations that are at ease, for I was but a little displeased, but they added to the calamity. Therefore Yahweh says, I have returned to Jerusalem with mercy. My house shall be built in it, says Yahweh of armies, and a line shall be stretched out over Jerusalem. Proclaim further, saying, Yahweh of armies says, my cities will again overflow with prosperity. And Yahweh will again comfort Zion, and will again choose Jerusalem. I lifted up my eyes and saw, and behold, 4 horns. I asked the angel who talked with me, what are these? He answered me, these are the horns which have scattered Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem. Yahweh showed me 4 craftsmen. Then I asked, what are these coming to do? He said, these are the horns which scattered Judah, so that no man lifted up his head, but these have come to terrify them, to cast down the horns of the nations that lifted up their horn against the land of Judah to scatter it. Zechariah chapter 2. I lifted up my eyes and saw, and behold, a man with a measuring line in his hand. Then I asked, where are you going? He said to me, to measure Jerusalem, to see what is its width and what is its length. Behold, the angel who talked with me went out, and another angel went out to meet him, and said to him, run, speak to this young man, saying, Jerusalem will be inhabited as villages without walls, because of the multitude of men and livestock in it. For I, says Yahweh, will be to her a wall of fire around it, and I will be the glory in the middle of her. Come, come, flee from the land of the north, says Yahweh, for I have spread you abroad as the 4 winds of the sky, says Yahweh. Come, Zion, escape, you who dwell with the daughter of Babylon. For Yahweh of armies says, for honor he has sent me to the nations which plundered you, for he who touches you touches the apple of his eye. For, behold, I will shake my hand over them, and they will be a plunder to those who serve them, and you will know that Yahweh of armies has sent me. Sing and rejoice, daughter of Zion. For behold, I come and I will dwell within you, says Yahweh. Many nations shall join themselves to Yahweh in that day, and shall be my people, and I will dwell among you. And you shall know that Yahweh of armies has sent me to you. Yahweh will inherit Judah as his portion in the Holy Land, and will again choose Jerusalem. Be silent, all flesh, before Yahweh, for he has roused himself from his holy habitation. He showed me Joshua the high priest standing before Yahweh's angel, and Satan standing at his right hand to be his adversary. Chapter 4. The angel who talked with me came again and wakened me, as a man who is wakened out of his sleep. He said to me, what do you see? I said, I have seen, and behold, a lampstand all of gold, with its bowl on the top of it, and its 7 lamps on it. There are 7 pipes to each of the lamps which are on the top of it, and 2 olive trees by it, one on the right side of the bowl, and the other on the left side of it. I answered and spoke to the angel who talked with me, saying, what are these, my Lord? Then the angel who talked with me answered me, don't you know what these are? I said, no, my Lord. Then he answered and spoke to me, saying, this is Yahweh's word to Zerubbabel, saying, not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, says Yahweh of armies. Who are you, great mountain? Before Zerubbabel you are a plain, and he will bring out the capstone with shouts of grace, grace to it. Moreover, Yahweh's word came to me, saying, the hands of Zerubbabel have laid the foundation of this house. His hands shall also finish it, and you will know that Yahweh of armies has sent me to you. Indeed, who despises the day of small things? For these 7 shall rejoice, and shall see the plumb line in the hand of Zerubbabel. These are Yahweh's eyes, which run back and forth through the whole earth. Then I asked him, what are these 2 olive trees on the right side of the lampstand and on the left side of it? I asked him the second time, what are these 2 olive branches, which are beside the 2 golden spouts that pour the golden oil out of themselves? He answered me, don't you know what these are? I said, no, my Lord. Then he said, these are the 2 anointed ones who stand by the Lord of the whole earth. Zechariah chapter 5. Then again I lifted up my eyes and saw, and behold, a flying scroll. He said to me, what do you see? I answered, I see a flying scroll. Its length is 20 cubits, and its width 10 cubits. Then he said to me, this is the curse that goes out over the surface of the whole land. For everyone who steals shall be cut off according to it on the one side, and everyone who swears falsely shall be cut off according to it on the other side. I will cause it to go out, says Yahweh of armies, and it will enter into the house of the thief, and into the house of him who swears falsely by my name, and it will remain in the middle of his house, and will destroy it with its timber and its stones. Then the angel who talked with me came forward and said to me, Lift up now your eyes and see what this is that is appearing. I said, What is it? He said, This is the ephah basket that is appearing. He said, Moreover, this is their appearance in all the land. And behold, a lead cover weighing 1 talent was lifted up, and there was a woman sitting in the middle of the ephah basket. He said, This is wickedness, and he threw her down into the middle of the ephah basket, and he threw the lead weight on its mouth. Then I lifted up my eyes and saw, and behold, there were 2 women, and the wind was in their wings. Now they had wings like the wings of a stork, and they lifted up the ephah basket between earth and the sky. Then I said to the angel who talked with me, Where are these carrying the ephah basket? He said to me, To build her a house in the land of Shinar. When it is prepared, she will be set there in her own place.